Friends, if you're looking for real old school laughs, you're in for a treat because we've got them right here. Flip City Magazine. Remember Mad Magazine? Then it went woke? Well, don't worry. Flip City has no chance of going woke. That's right. 4 times a year, you'll get an actual printed magazine full of jokes, stories, comics, and more, all about today's pop culture, entertainment, and woke politics. Flip City takes terrible entertainment trends we love to hate with hilarious parodies of Lord of the Rings, Stranger Things, The Walking Dead, Star Trek, Hunters, and more. Trust me when I say there is nothing else like Flip City on the market. So subscribe today. It will be delivered in print, or you can even get it digitally if you're one of those wacky Zoomers. Either way, follow our link and sign up today, and if you put in midnight, you get an extra 10% off. Check out Flip City Magazine today. Welcome, everybody. How you doing? It is Tuesday. It's Tuesday, right?
It is Tuesday.
All day long. Welcome to Midnight's Edge After Dark. I'm Tom Connors. I am the host. We have with us a panel of fine young gentlemen, as opposed to fine young cannibals, which would be a bad thing, because then I would be eaten. We have Nick Weiser here, all 32 flavors of them. Speaking of eating, how you doing?
Doing good, man. Happy to be here. Hollywood is crazy as usual. It's as obvious as Superman being Clark Kent and Snow being white. So yeah, ready to talk about it, ready to hang out with you, our excellent chat, and the rest of our esteemed panelists. Let's go.
Indeed. Speaking of esteemed panelists, we have the man, the myth, the rock. Clobbering times.
You better believe I'm string, you bunch of Yancey Streeters. What's up, buddies?
Is that like
reference?
Acne clobbering times, or
Buddy?
What was that? I don't know what happened there.
What happened? You can't hear me?
Yeah, I just didn't understand what you said.
He's talking about Yancey Streets, a Fantastic Four reference.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah, bunch of Yancey Streeters. So, there we go. Good to see all my dear friends on the panel and fun friends in the chat. Let us geek.
Let us geek.
Hey, Clobby.
Hey, man.
I like
What's up,
that.
buddy?
Let us geek. You should be like the minister of nerddom.
I shall preach to you. The evangelist.
Long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
I hereby decree something geek.
We were on a 5-year mission.
50 years ago, something. Doesn't make any sense, does it? Oh, well.
And with great power comes great responsibility.
Yes. And with great responsibility, if you're responsible, then you're not really a geek, because we're not very responsible as geeks.
Not really. No. Well, that's not always true. Nerds generally pay their bills on time.
Nerds, yeah, but geeks are different.
True. Geeks, nerds.
Well, Raquel is, she's a big deal about that. I think they're the same, but she won't let me believe that.
There's crossover, I guess. I mean,
yeah.
But I do just understand there's a distinction.
Yes, there is, but it's been blurred, and how horrible.
It's blurred.
No, it really doesn't matter then.
The line's been blurred. We don't know where nerd begins and geek ends.
Yes. Believe me, I've had the geek nerd lesson from my wonderful officer. So. I mean, the lecture, full lecture.
We also have CC Karaoke on with us tonight. How you doing?
Doing all right. I never pay my tickets, but I pay my bills most of the time.
That works. Is that why you're constantly on the run? You're like, fuck you, I'm not paying that speeding ticket.
Well, I mean, they're still trying to get at me in a few jurisdictions, but
yeah, but do you pay anybody? but do you pay anyone else's?
Yes, that would be weird.
No, I actually, I have paid other people's fines before.
Yeah,
Oh, you
Haven't
are
we all?
you are a good friend.
Anyone who's a
Such
parent
nice
knows what that's
friend.
like. But anyways, welcome, CC. We're glad to have you here from the Great White North.
Glad to be here.
Indeed. And we also have the one, the only Price of Reason. How you doing?
I'm good. How's it going, guys?
Hello, sir.
Going.
All right, bud.
How you been?
I've been okay. I guess.
Well, I'm glad you're at least okay. That's something.
It's
He's
yeah,
very-
okay is fine. I'm not complaining. Okay is acceptable.
He's
Functioning within
very
normal
decent.
parameters.
He's super decent. He's super decent.
He is functioning within normal parameters.
I'm sorry, Dave. I can't do that.
Don't stop, Dave. Don't do that.
Easy. Also with us, Jay. How you doing, Jay?
The man.
The man who got to see all the not so activism happen in Vancouver.
Man, that was funny.
I knew that was gonna
Well,
flop too, but that was.
I'm sorry,
even
we didn't
better
let him
just to
speak,
see it.
did
Oh,
we?
that.
Oh, sorry.
No. That's it. But he did post a pretty funny video. Did you guys see this video
Yeah, that was
Did he post it today?
Oh, yeah.
of Miss Speed Demon here?
Oh, sweet. No, dude, no.
At least I'm
Wow.
assuming that's what it was all about.
What happened?
What do you have to say for yourself?
I didn't know the speed
Yeah.
limit.
Oh, are they Canadian ticket or an
What do you
American?
think
What
that
do you
is?
have to say for yourself?
Wow.
Gina
Oh,
got
hey.
pulled over.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
I bet you
did
that
not
was that
catch
cop's day, though. I tell you what.
Yeah, did he actually write the ticket or did he go,
Yeah, if it
wow,
was in
Gina.
Canada, it was like, hey, you're that Gina Carano lady, eh? No.
Did he let her off with a warning?
Yeah. Made a first
No.
witchy, eh?
That is
Yeah, when
fantastic.
when the speed limits in Canada say 100 or 110, it's not miles an hour. It's probably I don't want to.
Oh, I don't know if
100
that's where
miles an
they're at
hour.
exactly, but I'm assuming because I think they're up at that expo, aren't they? At the
Yeah,
Yeah.
It doesn't actually
Yeah.
look like
Such a
Vancouver
weird
around there, but
schedule.
yeah, they might not
They
even be in the
have-
they might not
they
even
could
be
have
out of
gone
the
back
US
south,
yet.
Yeah.
She's driving up there herself, though? I mean,
I don't know, maybe that or they just rented a vehicle, I would assume, once they got up there. But I don't know, unless they're just driving somewhere else. I have no idea. He just posted that today. I just thought it was
Wow.
kind of funny. So share out the link, let everybody know we're live. If you want to get in on the conversation, the best way to do that is send in a super chat. That way you get our attention. And we'll definitely talk about it. Or if there's a topic that you maybe want us to cover or question you have, like you could ask Clobber in times where babies come from.
oh, I'll tell you that easily. They come from orange rocks.
That's right.
Pretty
They
much
get crushed
everything
and
comes
become
from
little
orange
orange rocks.
Little
Everything comes from orange rocks.
everything.
And believe you me, that's where the term smashing comes from.
That explains a
gentlemen.
lot about my inception.
Well,
that I came from an orange.
Smashing
rock.
comes from the Hulk. He's green. Screw him. Clobbering comes from orange. Like clobber, we don't smash around here. In fact, we clobber smashers.
Oh, showed up.
Oh
the
my.
Hulk.
See, I'm a Hulk fan, but
I
hear
am
ya.
too, actually. Don't tell him though.
Hulk angry.
So let's see.
I
think
see
I'm-
You're
some
angry, Hulk?
signs.
Yeah, I have anger problems.
How about now?
In therapy. I hate
Oh,
going to therapy.
Oi.
Can't help it, court ordered.
What about now?
Got a little better. Yeah. But anyway, welcome to the program, kids. As we said, share out the link, let everybody know we're live. We don't have any super chats yet. But I want to say hello to the people in the audience. You are also part of the cast. We do have Daryl Brewer and D Bud Martin here today, so I'm likely to get confused with the two.
D-Bud.
We got FKHC 2005 here. We
Hey.
got Goddess of Whim hanging out. I saw Sander Hammerslag in there. You know, he's excited because I'm sure there's the Beatles news is gonna get him all fired up. We got Dara Muth here as well, who's always a supporter on here or on Rumble when we stream over on the Rumble side of things. We got RJ Godzilla as well. We got Josh Hammond. Welcome to the program, guys. DK Bones. There you go. We got Phoenix Knight. We got, who else do we got here? Lombardi 1969, I see in the chat. Got Beep Bop Boop in the chat here. Speaking of Gina Carano. That's right. Let's see who else we got. Duck Nation, Nick the Greeks here, Night Raven. Welcome everybody. Tyrannus Cygnus is here as well. Marks 47, or is it M Arcs 47? M Arc S 47 maybe. That might be right. John Coppola is here as well. So welcome guys. Cartoon Man I see here. Argentrum's here. Grand Admiral Adams here as well as being a member. Thank you for that. Bucky Cat saying hi. See right there. Welcome everybody. And Daryl says, I told you I'll change my name to D-Bud the second, Tom. Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. But you don't need D-Bud's blessing. Was D-Bud even aware of that? I don't even know. Yeah. And this is true. This is an actual fact of matter. If the nachos are stuck together, that's one nacho. And E-Clay, don't look sad. I just saw you in the chat. There you go. I'm sure there's plenty of others I didn't get a chance to say hello to, like Vertical Horizons and Jared and many others there. Welcome, guys. Welcome to the podcast. Share out the link everywhere on your socials if you got them. Let everybody know we're live. We got some stuff to discuss today. I'm going to hold off on the main topic just because I'm hoping a few other people might join us for that. But there was a bit of home video news that crosses over with some of the stuff we generally talk about on a daily basis, and that, of course, is Disney. How many of you guys are familiar with the Disney Movie Club?
I knew about it, but I never went beyond the
Movie
surface
club?
of it.
Yep.
I don't know.
Well, I've been a member of it for the last 2 decades at least.
They invite you to movies in advance or something like that.
Oh.
No, that's something different. The Disney Movie Club is much like, remember BMG and Columbia House and all that stuff back in the day? They send you movies? Yes, that's exactly what it is. But the catch also they have is there's a bunch of movies on the Disney Movie Club that you can only exclusively get through the club. For instance, like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, Honey, I Blew Up the Kids, the Mighty Duck films, the Three Musketeers with Kiefer Sutherland. Some I got here in my hand, even animated classics like The Black Cauldron. I got like The Computer That Wore Tennis Shoes here. That's another one. You got the Apple Dumpling Gang. There's tons and tons of them. Black Hole.
It was Kiefer Sutherland with Charlie Sheen and Chris O'Donnell. There was one other person. Who's the fourth one that was in that movie?
Oh, what's his face? Oliver Platt and trying to remember who else. But no, there's just a bunch of those movies that have not gotten released to the public, let's say, and like you can't go to Walmart or Best Buy or any of those places back in the day to buy those. You could only get them through the Disney Movie Club. Yeah, the only catch was you had to buy like 4 movies at regular club price over the next 2 years. And there was always exclusives and other cool stuff they would offer through there. But for me, it was a great way to get these movies that you couldn't get any other way. But that is ending, kids, as of this year. They're shutting it down.
End of an era.
And the reason for that is they have now inked an exclusive deal with Sony to take over their physical media production. So this comes as a scoop from our good friend over at the Digital Bits, Bill Hunt. So I'm going to read this real quick. He goes, there are some significant developments happening within home video industry as of late. Developments I've been spending a lot of time investigating and really digging into these past few weeks at the Digital Bits. And I can now confidently report that one of them is this. Disney and Sony have just inked a major deal for Sony Home Entertainment to take over all of Disney physical media production going forward. All right, sorry, I had to cough. This means that Sony will handle and oversee actual authoring and compression of discs, that they'll work with the replicators and packaging vendors, and that they'll oversee the titles as they go out to the distributors and to the retailers. I first received the word of this deal about 2 weeks ago, apparently within 24 hours of the ink drying, and now I've confirmed it with multiple independent sources within the industry, people that I trust, and so on. Um, he said this deal makes sense for Disney for a number of reasons, not least of which is that Sony is far more efficient and cost effective at producing their discs, whereas Disney physical media operation has been subject to no small amount of internal organizational turmoil recently. First, they trimmed down in late 2019 and early 2020 after Disney's infamous and year-long 4K Ultra HD catalog title blowout. They were subject to many of the cost-cutting pressures and personal losses that all the majors suffered during the COVID-19 pandemic. It hasn't helped that the business or the studio's physical media operation, sorry, I don't even know where I got the word business from, physical media operation, which is now almost an afterthought in the shadow of the Disney business. Oh, there it is right there. Disney businesses and activities has been organizationally tied to Disney's digital and streaming operation ever since. Based on reporting from multiple sources, what this has meant in recent months is that virtually every decision about which catalog titles to be released on disc and which features to include on them, not to mention every technical decision that naturally arises during the course of production of those titles, requires scores of people to be involved at Disney, and the people who are actually working on these discs don't have decision-making skills about any or decision making power. That was a Freudian slip there about anything. They may have kicked decisions upstairs to their bosses, who have to kick it upstairs to their bosses, and so on. Multiple levels of management are involved, which means that decisions should take 2 people or 5 minutes instead, take 30 people or a week or more. It would pretty tough for anyone to make money on physical media doing it like that. What's more, with Disney constant cost-cutting measures and the fact that the studio has wildly overspent on its streaming operation, everyone involved is naturally afraid to lose their jobs. So few people at Disney are willing to stick their necks out to make a decision for fear of getting fired. Fortunately, that includes very people who know how to do physical media best. Ironically, Disney turning over their physical media operation to Sony means that a lot of these people now are probably likely to lose their jobs, which is regrettable. We hope that at least the studio is wise enough to keep the people who actually know what they're doing, as opposed to the middle managers who aren't adding value to the process. And he goes on a little bit more on this stuff, and I suggest checking it out, and always check out the digital bits for your latest in home video news. But the part that sticks out to me is if Sony is only handling their distribution and disc manufacturing, you're still going to have to deal with all these problems in the middle. Because I mean, although Bill does a great job setting this up, I mean, to be able to get movies out on disc and still get the titles out there, it sounds like you still have to go through a bunch of hurdles to get there. And Disney's going to be the one deciding what movies still get released or not, is what it sounds like to me, unless Sony's going to be coming in and taking over a lot more of those operations. What do you guys think? I know this is not exactly within your purview, but it is one of my specialties. So, and this is definitely something we'll probably be talking about on a 4K for you when it finally returns here very soon. But let's start with you, Price. What's your take on this whole Disney Sony deal?
I because I wasn't as familiar with this setup with this whole Disney Club to begin with, not really sure what to think about it. But it seems odd to me that Disney wouldn't want this for themselves. I'm kind of surprised that they would kind of pawn it off or do this kind of collaboration, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You know better. I mean, isn't this something that was already happening for years? Why would they not? I understand that the personnel and all that stuff, but there's a big demand for physical media, and I think that there's even a resurgence of it, and more people are interested in it. And now with Blu-ray, DVD, what's the thing? Not what's the 4K Blu-ray, whatever it is.
Yep.
So there's an entirely new market now that's actually going up in sales. And I would think that Disney would want to capitalize on it. I mean, they launched their own streaming service. They can't print some DVDs and stuff. It just seems weird to me. But maybe there's something about this whole situation that I don't fully understand.
I mean, it's kind of a twofold, right? Like, as far as an industrial thing, like this is not the first time. In fact, this is Universal and Warner Brothers have a similar deal like this. They work together on their home video, for instance. Frankly, this is not surprising that they're doing something like this. At least this keeps the life alive for a little bit longer when it comes to Disney, because they were on the verge of trying to kill physical media for a while. In fact, Disney Movie Club was already kind of on life support. They had mixed it with a couple of their other things. Like I think you had mentioned earlier, Price, where you can go see some other movies early and get special screenings and stuff like that. Like there was other programs and stuff they were already mixing with the Disney Movie Club and certain things. So that's maybe where you were confused with that. So like it was already kind of becoming conglomerated with all these other things and less important. And I noticed a lack of newer titles coming in as far as the exclusive stuff. So this was kind of a long time coming. But Bill brought up a point here later in the article, and I agree with him. It's dumb of Disney to cancel their club now. Now's the time you keep it because you got somebody else dealing with a lot of this shit for you. You still keep the club, man.
Right.
Yeah,
That is weird.
yeah. It's just like, what the hell's that got to do with the other? I mean, it's just, it's preposterous to me on that part. But them making a deal with Sony does make sense because Sony is one of the leaders in home video. And if anybody knows how to get their movies out there and handle all the distribution and the manufacturing side of things, it's them, at least in my opinion, from what I know of them. But yeah, unless you got anything more to say on that.
No, but they didn't know how to do a streaming service, and they still spent a lot of money on that. So if they don't know how to do, this is a no-brainer for me. Am I not right that there's an uptick in people wanting to buy 4K blue?
Slightly. It's still like a market that's on the cusp of dying at any given day. Like it is not.
It's not about to break out.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's some deals that are shaken that make me wonder. Like there has been a gradual growth. You're not wrong, but it was a growth after a huge decline, right? Like, because I mean, DVD discs used to make up a major portion of the industry. I'm sure you guys have seen that clip of Matt Damon out there where he's on that podcast or whatever show where he was eating wings and stuff, but he was talking about the DVD sales and how important they were to movies, right? And he was talking about how that's just completely gone away and how like he could make movies back in the day like Rounders and other stuff that people would normally not go see now, but back then they could put out in the theaters and he could make and stuff like that because the movie would generally make its money back on disc. Those days are gone unless you got an Oppenheimer or a Barbie or something like that. Most people don't buy discs anymore. You'd be hard pressed to find a lot of people that have discs out there now. It's sad. I mean, there are a lot of people that are starting to get into it though. I've noticed a growth just through my reporting in 4K for you the last year or so. People have started to notice with, especially when you get like the recent Crunchyroll deal and Sony, losing a bunch of their rights to things, and even people have noticed Amazon and Vudu and other platforms, Apple and stuff, that where they lose their stuff that they thought that they owned when they realize, oh, it's just a long-term lease. It's not really owning something, right? So yeah, I think that some people have kind of gravitated back towards physical media, but it'll be interesting to see how that works out. But CC, what do you think about this?
Well, I mean, distribution is one thing, but I mean, is this going to impact the quality of the product? And the first thing that comes to mind is when I'm talking about physical media, say in terms of music, the first thing, and like if I have a choice in the matter, I want that 1986, 1987 Japan pressing of any CD from any band, because Japan pressed it better. And those earliest pressings of the CDs were not, well, destroyed. The music was not destroyed yet, right? And I know you've talked about this a lot, 4K for you and whatnot. It's like there's not all 4K releases are made the same, right? And that can go for any release. Is the casing good? Is the artwork on the front good? Does it come with a booklet? Is there artwork in the booklet, or is it just like a CD in an empty case? Is there not even a CD in the case, and it's just like, here's the case and a download code? In terms of video games, that actually happens. By the way, you buy the physical copy, and inside the case, you just have a download code for the game. It's absolutely silly. So, okay, they have a new distributor, but I mean, who's actually putting together the product? Is it still Disney? Is it still going to have warnings at the front of movies to talk about how it doesn't meet today's values and it's offensive? Is the coloring correct? Is it upscaled, or do they actually have the original film? There's a whole host of questions. Is it, in Star Wars terms, is it the original cut, or is it the is it like, or is it the special editions? That if I was going to
Yeah.
buy stuff for a collection, that's what I care about, right? The first thing I'm going to Google is what's the quality of this release? Was it done correctly? And if it wasn't, I'm going to find the one that was, right?
Yeah, and you kind of touched on the point that has me most concerned, and that is this is a great deal as far as getting movies out there, maybe, but the structural issue that Bill brought up here, I think, is still in place because they're still handling the mastering and what is going to be getting a release and all that kind of stuff. So, as you said before, not all 4K releases are the same, and that's very true. Especially they're extremely varied, even more so than audio. Because we've had a lot of things where audiophiles, like you brought up, can debate about which release is better, or what is it better to have just a remixed digital version, or do you want to go back to the original 2-track master mix or something? There's all kinds of debates there where that's just the tip of the iceberg compared to the crap that we dive into on 4K for you and the problems and the other things that go into a lot of the industry right now with this shit. So yeah, we're talking about the ass end of the deal here. Like the other problems I think are still going to be there, but yeah, that's my main concern too, CC. Clobby, what about you? What's your reaction to this? I don't know how much you still get into physical media, but I think he stepped away. So Nick.
This is an interesting thing. I mean, it's clear that Disney is definitely clearly back on wanting to do physical media. It's just odd that they're going to Sony of all places, but I guess we'll see how it goes for them. I mean, it's definitely something they should have never even considered shying away from doing ever. I mean, every company should have never considered. But then again, this is what happens when I was digital. Now they're seeing how much money they lost just automatically transitioning to streaming, not considering the importance of physical media as a whole. So, I mean, there's nothing revolutionary I gotta say about this. It's just, hey, if it works out, hey, great for both companies. So that's about it for me.
All right. Now I don't know if Clobby's back yet or not. He did say BRB in the back.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he must be on a call.
He's
or
in
something.
the back.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's nothing. Yeah, two major. I mean, it's a new thing for both companies, so it's just like I said, it's a good thing for both companies to stay on physical media. It's just now the only thing I ask now besides Target, who else do they sell to? I guess since Clobby's still here,
Walmart's actually amped things up a bit. Because that's another thing too. Is ever since Best Buy has shut down their home video operations,
if they're filling in a void, then yeah.
Amazon and Walmart have been getting a lot of the exclusives now. Are you back, Clobby?
Sorry about that.
No, you're fine. I just wanted to get your take on this before we moved on.
I don't know much about it. I got to hear bits and pieces of what you were saying. Somebody kept calling it business crap. So I'm sorry about that. I'm a big social media believer. That's for sure, though. I mean, social media.
Physical media.
Physical media.
I knew what you meant.
Social media, I hate. Actually, I don't. I actually love it. I was lying there. But I don't know much about the story other than yay, physical media. But I'm sorry I couldn't follow you. I had stuff going on I had to deal with. I'm sorry. So sorry.
No, you're fine, brother.
I'm horrible. I'm a failure, in fact. I'm failure. That's Nick. He can tell you.
Until we get some more news on this, which I am going to be following this closely. There's not much else we can say on this, but let's see what you guys are saying in the audience. We got Dara Muth, who says Godzilla X Kong, March 29th. I'm excited for it. So am I, Dara Muth. Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Just over a month. Anybody else here looking forward to it?
Cautiously. What are you cautious? Are you cautious, or you think it's going to be great?
A little bit, but I already know what to expect. A little, but and I've enjoyed some, and I don't take this stuff as seriously as some people do. I mean, it's
I like that last one mostly. So I'll be there, and I am sort of looking forward to this one. Just to have a good time. You can't let Godzilla -1, up those expectations into the stratosphere, because we didn't expect that to be as good as it was. I didn't anyway, and I know a lot of people didn't. It's not going to be the same kind of film anyway. So
No, it's
it's
going
going
to
to be
be
a lot of
dumb.
fun. It's going to be dumb fun, I hope.
Yes, that's
That's
probably
what-
what a dumb
That's
fun.
what you always expect from a Godzilla movie. Let's just be honest.
Yeah, it is.
And we got something that was totally unlike any for me, mostly unlike any Godzilla movie ever, except maybe the original, in the sense that was played more seriously.
I saw Godzilla 1984 when it was in the theater, and
Yeah, me too.
that wasn't very good.
No, actually, was it
wasn't very-
1985?
Yeah, 1985. Sorry, that wasn't even dumb fun. I feel like that one wasn't a very good one.
No, but we were looking forward to it at the time.
I was a kid, and I think that my parents actually liked this kind of movies, and they thought it would be cool. And then we went to it, and I think that they didn't like it, and I didn't either.
No, nobody did. I remember everyone being a little disappointed in that one, if I remember right.
Well, that's where they shifted gears when they realized, oh, kids like monsters and dinosaurs, and we're selling a lot of toys.
Yes,
Maybe we should start making these movies more for kids.
Yeah, I mean, they want to see. They don't just look. We love Godzilla, of course, but we don't want to just see Godzilla. We want to see now. Again, the other one that was saying, we want to see Godzilla, in a tussle with other various creatures. Let's say kaiju. We want kaiju movies.
Yeah, and I look at it this way: we got the best of both worlds right now. So, I mean, it's never been a better time to be a Godzilla kaiju fan.
No,
than it is now.
That's true.
Yeah, and that was right around that time when the effects were, okay. Then around the early '90s, when they started doing more Godzilla films, like Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah and some other ones. Did you ever see that early '90s Gamera? When they used to make Gamera films to compete with Godzilla. They did an early '90s Gamera one with some pretty good effects and stuff. Those were pretty cool as well. I know he's a competitor to Godzilla. I'm not putting him above Godzilla. No, we don't say that, but he was a turtle, and you like turtles.
I do.
I like turtles.
He
There's
was
the
like
setup.
one of their competitions. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then got Goddess of Whim sending in $10. How you doing, Goddess of Whim? Says, can someone explain to me what Sony's rights to Spider-Man is? How can they use Spidey's villains and some supporting characters, but not Peter Parker's Spider-Man or other supporting characters? Okay, this is a very good question. And I really wish Andre was here to explain it. So I'll do my best. Okay.
I know
Because he does it
some of
more
them,
succinctly.
too. I
Yeah,
know some
basically
of
the
them.
way it works, Sony owns the film rights to the Spider-Man characters. So that means any characters that are considered Spider-Man universe characters, whether they were created before or after the license, so that means they automatically got like Miles Morales and stuff like that.
Right.
There's one or two exceptions to that rule. I believe Spider-Woman is one of the exceptions, and there's like one or two other ones. And then I think like the X-Men rule, there's a few that might cross over, but that's it. That was the initial deal.
Yes.
And that was post them losing all the rights to the toys and all that kind of stuff, because they made a deal so they could hang on to the movie rights a little longer. And Disney bought into that deal because they got the toy rights and all the other ancillary rights. So all Sony can do is make movies or TV movies with Spider-Man. That's it. Can't make TV shows, can't make cartoon shows. Doesn't really benefit from the toys outside. I think they get a piece of the MCU movies through their deal, but I don't even think they get a piece of the Spider-Verse movies or not yet. I'm not sure. But other than that, so then when they made the deal with the MCU, that deal puts any of the characters that are in the MCU into a moratorium after they're done, except for I think Spider-Man, but that means they can't use Spider-Man in other movies. They can refer to him, hint at him, what have you. So this is why I guess Madam Web's a great example of this, is how you can allude to Aunt May and allude to Peter Parker, but you can't actually name them. But Ben wasn't in the MCU movie, so they could use Ben Parker.
Yeah. True.
Right. So that's kind of my understanding. And that's why, and I guess this is between Amy Pascal and whoever else decided to do this. This is why in the MCU movies, we get like 25% different MJ and the other characters, is so that if they do pull out Spider-Man from the MCU, this was always Amy's plan that we were understanding, is she would just put him in their own movies in the Venom verse, which is what they're running over there, and continue down that road. And she would, I guess, theoretically be able to use the original versions of Mary Jane and so on and so on and so on. But
wait,
this is starting to come to a head because now we're hearing that people are getting confused. Like even the actors themselves signed on to this under the assumption that they were being part of the MCU, and they come to find out they weren't. So yeah, I think this is gonna. We get closer to learning the actualities.
I
of
have a
this entire
question
thing.
though.
Sure.
In No Way Home, don't they mention that their Uncle Ben died? So in that way, maybe you don't see him, but they did mention that Uncle Ben
They
exists.
did, but yeah, I think it's kind of that's a gray area, perhaps. Or they gave like a gimme. But I think
Yeah.
Kevin Feige has a lot of control over that too,
Well,
over what goes where.
maybe what they do is that if they have to use it, like in that movie, they sign an addendum or something. They do draft something that just say, well, in this one instance, we're allowed to say it.
Well, and it's weird because if you watch those old interviews with Amy Pascal and Kevin Feige, when she's talking and he's just giving her that weird death stare every once in a while, because it's like, you're not supposed to say that, or that's not how it works. And she said
There'll be adjuncts to it.
Like that, he just really, that whole thing where he was just like, what the fuck are you talking about? Because it's pretty clear to me in a sense that the Venomverse movies can use whatever it is they're allowed to use, and that's it. And unless they get permission probably from MCU, because the MCU can clearly use like Venom and other things like that they couldn't use because they did in the No Way Home thing, but that's also attached to Sony. So that's probably where the gray area lies. But who knows? I wonder if this Sony home video deal is part of a sweetened pot, because we have been sitting here now and we're almost at the longest between Spider-Man movies we've ever been.
True. By the way, I think that
and there's been a lot of rumors about Spider-Man, so I wonder if they're trying to work some shit out or figure some shit out. But go ahead. Sorry, Bryce.
I wanted to say that I think that Sony should send the Korean hackers a bouquet of flowers. Maybe they did a lot of damage, but getting rid of Amy Pascal was actually a good decision. And I think that she shouldn't be involved in any kind of anything for them. I don't know why they still let her and be involved in.
I think she's
Spider-Man.
the holdup right now, to be honest with you. I think because this is the same thing that happened the last time they were getting close to renewing the deal. You had I think it was Kevin Feige himself or somebody like that come out and said, I hadn't heard from Sony in 6 months. And we all kind of heard the rumors then, and then that's when Kevin and her started working together again, and they came up with the second phase of the deal.
Why do they even want her there? I mean, if I'm Sony, why do I
she is tied to Spider-Man, and that's it.
Spider-Man is a lot of money for them. Why would they want this lady to
she did some kind of thing where she had it in her contract where she produced. This is probably why the same thing when we say that even after Kathleen Kennedy leaves Star Wars, she'll probably still be listed as an executive producer, because whatever contract she made with them at the time, she is still attached to Spider-Man for some reason. We don't know the logistics of it or the exacts of it, because the glass ceiling project and all that stuff, that was her. This Madam Web thing, this is something that she came up with back when she was running the show.
This has her fingerprints all over it.
Even though, but she's not one of the producers, which is weird, or anything like that. Her name's not on it anywhere, right? But she still is a part of it, which is weird. But I'm thinking that her deals have to do mainly with Spider-Man, because I'm trying to remember if she's even on the Venomverse movies at all. I don't think her name is. So that might be it. She's might only be able to be involved if Spider-Man's involved now. That probably is the case, if I had to take a guess. So I am sorry, Goddess. That's the best I can explain it right now.
You did well.
All right.
Quite well.
I do have some thoughts. One thing that I'll say, I always think of how Sony, what was it that Sony did something with the PlayStation?
PlayStation 3 and Spider-Man 3 were released in tandem, and the PlayStation logo even had the Spider-Man logo as their font. Yeah.
No, I was just trying to think the whole PlayStation. What happened then? Sony wanted to enter the market, and Nintendo screwed them over. I'm trying to remember.
Oh, that's a fun story. Like, I don't remember all the logistics actually, but there's a couple of videos out there that do a great breakdown of it. I know the video.
Who were they supposed to team up with? Philips.
Originally, it was. Well, there was Philips and Sony were both trying to team up with one of the video game companies. And I think it was Sony and Disney that were, or not Disney, Sony and Xbox, I think were originally gonna. Or was it Nintendo?
I thought it was Nintendo. I thought
and maybe Philips and Xbox were the ones that worked together. Yeah. Something like that, unless you remember better. CC, because you.
Well, there are
video
videos
guy.
that'll explain it far better than
Yeah,
we could right
it's
now.
very complicated.
But
Yeah.
I will say Nintendo has a very strange infatuation with cartridges. And when Sony decided to go with the CD, which at the time, I mean, had a whopping, like 700 megabytes or whatever it was on those CDs,
Right.
and capacity versus the N64's, few dozen megabytes. it was over before it started.
Yeah, and Nintendo decided they didn't want to team up. So yeah, it was just basically then Sony's like, well, fuck you, I'm gonna make my own PlayStation with blackjack and hookers.
Yeah,
It's,
and then Sega had some issue with them too, that they also did something stupid, and at the end, Sony ended up, on top with that whole thing. But I guess the reason
Sega was self-sabotage, actually. This is something we've learned more about in recent years. I don't know if you knew about this, but Tom Kalinske, the guy who used to be at Mattel, he went over and he's responsible mostly for Sega being the juggernaut that it was and competing with Nintendo. But what happened is the people over in Japan were sick and tired of the big bosses saying, well, why can't you be more like Tom?
Oh.
So
I
they were
believe them.
sabotaging him. All the underlings over there were sabotaging him from over there. And the whole Dreamcast, Sega CD thing was a huge fiasco to fucking sabotage Sega US.
It's too bad because that guy seemed to make good decisions for them, and they ended up just shooting themselves in the foot with that whole thing. But
Sega got nothing but screwed over. Yeah,
the Dreamcast is one of the best systems ever. It's just a shame that it didn't have a chance.
But
yeah, and it was all because of self-sabotage. That's the sad part.
I guess what I'm saying is that I consider Sony a pretty shrewd company. I mean, when they see this kind of failure with Pascal and her spider thing and Madam Web, I would think that they're really gonna do something different. They're not suckers like Disney. Maybe their movies aren't the best, and you can say a lot of things about them, but I feel that there's still a few people in Japan that for them to see this Spider-Man, this Madam Web thing fail, it's the type of humiliation that they don't enjoy.
The copium is hard, my friend. The copium is very hard. In fact, our old buddy, Scott Mendelson.
Oh, Scott Mendelson.
He's working for
Scotty.
He works for Matthew Baloney.
Baloney was the one who's started a lot of this shit too. And so this Taylor Robinson guy said this shit first. Like I literally said in my review that the studios are absolutely going to learn the wrong lesson from Madam Web box office reception, like they always do when something doesn't work, and then blame the main character cast being mostly women. I knew it. And then of course Scott Mendelson backs him up. And it's like, dude, like no male movie has ever fucking failed. You don't hear that shit. The problem difference is you've had, 3, 4, 5 failures in a fucking row now that were all female-driven superhero movies? And what are the ones that haven't failed in the midst of all that, huh? Guardians of the Galaxy and Spider-Man.
Do you know that Scott
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, go on.
Well, I was going to mention how
no, you go.
Look at a lot of male-led movies that have not done good. Obviously, Quantumania flopped, even though we can argue that was basically Barry Scott's movie. But judging by in name only, that movie didn't do well. Obviously, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom did better than the rest.
Exactly. It's all superhero movies right now.
Flash, a male-led movie, did not do well. What was the other one? The Shazam sequel. As much as
I blame the lack
movie,
of cleavage.
the sequel did bad. So it's not like it's just a female issue. There's a issue in general with the quality. It has nothing to do with female-led movies. That's all. All I was trying to add to that. It's just all I'm trying to get is that male-led and female-led are both failing. You'll get
across
the
the board, exactly.
You'll get the oddball, like as you guys mentioned, Guardians did pretty well. Not like bonkers like Spider-Man did, but it did pretty well.
Yeah.
It did pretty well.
It's an exception to the rule now, though, right? Like that's the thing.
Yes,
exactly.
It is,
it's an exception. It's absolutely that. It's an exception. When back then 16 was like the rule. Nowadays, you're lucky if you have that.
Yeah. True.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm.
What I wanted to
Oh, go ahead, Price. Sorry.
What I wanted to say is that Scott Mendelson, we all remember him from all his shilling at Forbes, but oddly, One day, he just announced back then that he's no longer with Forbes. He, of course, said it's totally amicable, effective immediately. I'm no longer at Forbes, and it's very, very amicable. And then afterwards, he started working for The Wrap. And then one day, maybe a year later, he does the same thing. He posts, "It's very amicable. I'm just leaving immediately The Wrap, to focus on my Substack," or something like that. And then the next thing you know, like sometime later, Matthew Baloney hired him from Puck. I just think it's weird because he had these kind of few years that he was so into bashing all the people like us that were criticizing the movies. He was always there to peddle all these agendas and all these things. I'm surprised that they even I don't know that these places have let him go. I'm just surprised that they don't embrace him. Isn't he the type of shill that they want there?
He's a piece of shit.
Well,
I mean, he has me blocked on Twitter, by the way.
I was gonna say, if you'll remember, his whole like leaving of the one in the last time corresponded with me getting blocked by him. Yeah,
Oh,
I think that was around the same time you did.
Yeah, I don't know. I've been blocked for a while. I don't even remember what it is that I said that got me to block him. I don't even know if it was. I don't even know if something that I actually replied to him. I think that I made a joke about him, and I don't even think he was tagged in it. And then one day,
Actually, that's the same thing he did to me. Now that you remind me of that, it wasn't even that same day. It was like a couple weeks later, a couple weeks before that, for something mundane. It was really dumb.
Right. Who? I mean, is it a secret that he's a shill? I just wrote something. I don't know what I wrote. It was just some dumb stuff, and then I look and I'm blocked.
I didn't even say anything that bad. I'm trying to remember now. Six might even have a better memory than I do on that, but we did a whole show practically on it. Where, yeah, it was like this stupid thing I said to him or retweeted of him, and then he just blocked me over it. It was like, what the fuck ever, man.
Yeah,
give me a
that's one of those. It's a badge of honor with Scott Mendes.
That's kind of way we treated it that day. It was like what do you call it? A funeral celebration of life.
You know what it may have been? I think that when Ghostbusters Afterlife came out, I think that he was one of those kind of people that were whining because they brought back the OG Ghostbusters. I could be wrong. Vaguely, I remember that he was one of the whiners, and I think I was making fun of him. I could be wrong on this, but I vaguely recall
that was a funny thing about me, Price, is I had done and said many worse things about him and made fun of him 10 times over. But then all of a sudden, one fucking day out of the blue, and it's like, what the fuck did I do today? And I don't even remember what the fuck it was I said. It was really mundane compared to most of the shit I say. And it was just like, I don't think that was necessarily what triggered him, though.
Maybe these things were building up over time. You know what I'm saying? I think at the end, he said, you know what? All these guys are going to have to block them. And he just went out and did it, I guess. Now he's with Puck, though. I don't know about that Puck. I actually respected Puck more until I heard that they hired him. He's their like chief and entertainment guy now. I'm like,
yeah, go figure. Bass Player 2011 Iffy says, for audio, the holy grail is the uncompressed masters in 80s and early 90s CDs before the loudness were started. Going beyond that isn't worth it. I agree to a point. More recently, in recent years, and I know this only applies to some bigger bands and artists, but when they've actually gone back and remastered the entire stem tracks, actually processed over to from analog to digital, and or that's the other thing is a lot of people don't realize how much of this stuff was already digital back in the late 80s and early 90s, right? So like they just go back to the original and remix it for modern things. So that's the thing. And not only that, some of them are doing like multiple remixes, right? And CC might know what I'm talking about with this, where they'll actually do an album mix, a digital mix, and so on, and a streaming mix, so that it's mixed properly for all, or MP3 mix or whatever for headphones. So it's mixed properly for all the different ways you may be listening to it. In fact, the Beatles album is a more recent one. I remember the new greatest hits they just brought out. They actually mastered all the different versions in different ways. So it's supposed to sound the best it can sound on whatever you're listening to it on. Now, the various remixes, I'm not going to get into the debates on that part. But to me personally, as far as like an audio file goes, I like that because I get, I got all those new Beatle remasters, and some of the mixes I don't necessarily agree with, but I'm hearing stuff that I never heard before, and clarity that I never heard before. And I know some people don't want it that way. My thing is if they do that, they should also have a completely uncompressed version of the original 2-track master if they have it available as well. That'd be my only.
Yeah,
mean,
I'm
I-
with that. I don't like. There are some good remasters you can do, like especially if you're just giving like a sharper production. But if you're outright changing parts of the song, whether it's like re-recording parts,
Oh, they're
that's
not
where
doing that, but yeah.
I know, but I'm just
Some
giving
have for
examples
other
of,
things, but I'm just saying,
I
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
and I've there are some bands I love who have definitely done the things that they should have never done when they change parts. I'm like, oh, you couldn't just give this an updated production. No, you had to change parts of the song. It's the worst.
I mean, loudness is not as bad as it used to be. I'll give it that, but it's still awful. It's still just absolute crap. And if I've stopped even posting stuff on my channel that does not have dynamic range, and there's not always a best solution for it. If I can find an uncompressed master, great. That's my first priority. I will do my best. If I can't, I will decompress it and then post it. I'm sick. It's not the best solution, but it's a better solution than just posting brick-walled crap. Now, that being said, Tom is right. There are at least more options, and that's part of why it's better. I'm still very thankful that there are preservationists out there who are preserving and distributing, the unmolested. Am I allowed to say that word? Audio.
So.
But as far as other options, I will highly recommend 360 audio. I've been getting into that lately. A lot of it is, whoever is mixing those has been like the difference with Dolby Atmos, for example, right? Is whoever's mixing Dolby Atmos is not given the original stems. They're just given the stereo mix, and they have to separate that crap because it's supposed to sound the same as the CD.
Depends
masters.
on the project.
But I mean, a lot of the time it's just
that's the thing
stereo,
with like
right?
some of those ones, that you're. I think what you're talking about because like Apple Music, you can do Dolby Atmos through and or 360 audio.
But 360 RA is different. A lot of that is split into 10, 16, 24 different channels. They're given.
And that's the way Dolby
stems.
Atmos is supposed to be done.
Yeah, no, but 360 is far superior.
That's what I've heard.
Audio files in the audio,
that kind of thing. And that's because I've heard that the people who actually work for the Dolby Atmos don't really understand how music's supposed to work too. Now, because what you're talking about, the 2-channel being upsampled, that's as far as I know, that's a mainly exclusive to Apple problem from what I've been reading. But like I've got like quite a few albums that have like a Dolby Atmos remix on them. And in most cases, in my opinion, it's an amazing, and they are obviously remixing it from the original stems, and it's clearly got discrete things coming from different channels. In fact, like the Beatles ones are great examples, and this is where some debate has come in. And I know you know a little bit about this. Like the latter albums, which is what they started with, they had multiple tracks to work from, right? Like they had, I can't remember if it was 16 track or whatever to work from for the last 4 albums or whatever it was, 3 albums. But once they got to like Sgt. Pepper's, which is they only had the 4 tracks. So so when they were recording it, they were literally bouncing down tracks. So they would record, one set of the drums and the guitars and the bass, then they'd bounce that all down to the last track. Then they'd record another set of vocals and the lead guitar and something else, and like the noise sound effects from the background, and bounce that all down to the last track. Then they do final tracks of like overdubbing of voices and stuff like that. So then what you're left with is like 3 tracks of voices, and then all the rest of the shit bounced down to the last track.
The worst part, and I know it would be a downer here, but the worst part is you can't get the original data back.
No. So what they do now,
once it's mixed down, you actually lose some of the original data, right? And then I can get into this harder, but it's like, when you think about like an audio waveform, right? Each sample is a piece of sound, but I mean, you do keep most of it, but my understanding is you lose a few percent. And that few percent is still pretty critical, right?
Well, and here's where the AI comes in, right? But yeah, that's what.
But then that's where we can get into a whole debate about AI. Then you have to ask how is it being, and this applies both to audio and video, right? It's like, what is the competency of the process of reconstructing this? Because AI. Like they have upsamplers now, right? It's like you can take an MP3 and upsample it into a wave or a FLAC to get those higher frequencies. but you're getting an AI to predict what it would have
Yeah.
been. You're getting an AI to predict.
Well, that's kind of what MT3 was to begin with, in a way.
Yeah. So, but I mean, the bottom line, unfortunately, is if you don't have every isolated sound on its own track, if anything was mixed down together, if you even have 3 different vocal tracks, or you have the vocals and the guitar, whatever, anything that's not completely isolated, there is some data that's lost forever if you don't have the
Absolutely,
completely
yeah.
isolated original track.
But I think we're getting there with AI technology, especially with what the Beatles have been sampling with and trying to do. I think we're really getting there to a point.
Yeah,
we need to move on from this, but yeah.
Sure. No, sorry.
No. I know we could talk about this for a while. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a big topic. For Fortnite, it's a big one.
DCB Titan says with Canadian 5, so since the teaser dropped and the trailer is supposed to be come out tomorrow, hear anything about the production of Borderlands movie? I have not heard much. I did see the little teaser thing, but I am not a gamer, so I'm going to turn this over to like CC and anybody else who may know a thing or two about games.
I got nothing.
I haven't been following the Borderlands movie specifically, so I don't know, how well it's going along. It's just that it is a huge property, and if they do it right, it'll be a huge movie. Will it be as big as Mario? I don't know about that, but I mean, it has a ton of potential. So it's just, we'll have to see what the trailer looks like, right? We'll have see if they see as the information comes down. Is it going to be poorly handled? Is it going to be full of agenda? Is it going to be this or that? But if it's great, yeah, count on it, because people will definitely, word of mouth will spread and people will go see it, right? It's very popular.
There you go. That's the best we can get on that, because I don't know much else about it. I watched the teaser thing. It looked okay. We'll see how the trailer looks, I think, tomorrow. Beep Bop Boop is here. How you doing, Beep Bop Boop?
Such a great name.
Says Gareth Edwards is directing the Jurassic World next. Oh, so we're not going to see any dinosaurs in this one.
Does it have to be another one? Seriously?
I don't mind there being
Can they
another one.
stop?
Gareth Edwards, I mean,
I don't mind. I guess I shouldn't mind either, but I just like, why do they keep...
Is Gareth Edwards writing the screenplay, or he's just
that's
directing?
another question, yeah.
Probably.
No, David Kep is supposed to be writing it, I thought.
Well, there you go.
And
David
what
Kep
cast
is
are they
writing
using?
both
The
original, yeah.
cast, the secondary, the second
I
cast,
think this
or a
is
mixture
supposed to
of the
be
two?
starting a new trilogy of stories. So
Of
it's probably a
stories.
new cast.
About a park with dinosaurs in it that people are dumb enough to go hang out in and get run from dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
Gareth,
Again,
Gareth
Jurassic
Edwards
Planet.
is,
That's a great name,
Gareth Edwards is good visually.
The first
If
movie
he
still
actually
looks
lets
the
you
best.
see something, yeah.
let's
Maybe
go
they should
get
think
into a
about
park
that.
and run from dinosaurs for 2 hours. Yes, that will be
You
fun.
know,
We'll
in
see.
a perfect world, I would like to actually look forward to something like this, because I like big, dumb, fun movies. I have a show called Ducks and Tuesday World. That's the specialty. I just don't know if they got the people involved who got the creative mindset to do this. Like the especially the later trilogy. I actually I'm one of the few people who seems to not mind the first one, but the sequels are just awful.
I didn't like the first one. It's like, again, it's the same old. I mean, I love dinosaur films. You make dinosaur films.
Yeah, I
Dinosaurs
love
living
dinosaurs.
dinosaurs filming, living in the present day. That's fine. But if the same plot of, hey, we built an amusement park. Who's dumb enough to go hang out at an amusement park with a bunch of dinosaurs? Nothing's going to go wrong. Oh,
Yeah, you'd think that by now they'd already know that something's going to go wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times
Well,
could they possibly do it over again?
exactly. It probably had to really get, especially that first one, the new series. After that got out into the press, okay, about like this whole scene where a woman who's standing there, like at SeaWorld, gets chomped up by a big old dinosaur. It's like, I'm afraid, you know what? Most people aren't going to go to that ever again, like at a park. Just saying.
It's kind of like with Friday the 13th and Camp Crystal Lake or whatever
Yeah,
it
who's
is.
going to go there
even,
again?
But even Crystal Lake, there's at least hope that the counselors are going to be
But
okay.
you might not get chopped up.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
they don't know for sure that Jason is alive again.
True, but dinosaurs are at that damn park.
Right. Dinosaurs are there. They walk in and they're standing, and the dinosaurs are looking at them. It's not even like a secret with Jason, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Good point.
If they tell me that they've built animatronic dinosaurs and they've detailed it with CG overlaid, I will get excited. If it's just everything's like on a CG background and actors
cages,
are standing
they're
in
not
front
even
of
in
it.
cages a lot of the time. Yeah, no thanks. I love the first movie.
Oh, the first one holds up. It looks better than any movie that came after it.
Yeah, it's
Jurassic Park, the first one.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, that one's the best one.
Oh yeah, I don't think there's any debate there, really.
No.
But we should have probably segued into this nicely, although we had the super chat to do it anyway. But or the super chats that talked about this subject that we were just on. Yes, Sadie, I know. Yes. Sam Mendes is set to direct four separate Beatles movies on Paul McCartney, John Lennon, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr. This news dropped today. And basically, it'll be four movies, one from each of the members' point of view, and they will intersect to tell the astonishing story of the greatest band in history leading up to their 1970 breakup, according to the press release. I'm honored to be telling the story of the greatest rock band of all time and excited to challenge the notion of what constitutes a trip to the movies. Mendes, the Oscar-nominated filmmaker of American Beauty, war drama 1917, and James Bond films Skyfall and Spectre, said in a statement. Sony, who I believe recently just acquired all the rights, or a big portion of the rights of the Beatles music, will be producing this, it looks like. Yes, since we have a couple of music fans on the panel, I mean, myself included, being a big Beatles fan, I thought this was some interesting news. So what's your guys' take on it? Who wants to go first?
You guys go first. You're more the expertise.
Yes.
I
defer to the big music guys here. Go ahead.
So basically, I have no faith in Sam Mendes, and I think that and I'm sorry if people like him, I think he's an overrated director. Those James Bond movies that he made may have made money because it was some kind of 50th anniversary or whatever it was that was going there. I thought that they were both, those were stinkers, and at least critically, I think they were both stinkers. Agreed. And not only that, yeah, American Beauty, that was an interesting movie, but anything I've ever seen after that, I thought was like, there's this kind of aura that people are like, wow, it's Sam Mendes. And I always look at it and I think that it's kind of the Emperor's New Wardrobe or whatever. You know what I mean? I don't believe the hype around Sam Mendes. I would be annoyed if he was making one Beatles movie, but four of them, I don't know. I mean, it sounds like an interesting concept, the different angles and different things, but I don't know if I need it. And if somebody's going to make it in a cool way, I don't know that he's going to do it in a cool way. I think it'll be four snooze fests. But maybe, as a Beatles fan, I hope that he proves me wrong, but I'm expecting a four-way snooze.
All right, who wants to go next? CC?
I don't know if he's going to pull it off, and he may definitely not pull it off, but I love the concept. Personally, I'd make 5 movies, and I'd leave the fifth movie to really cover the final year, at the very end of the Beatles. But that aside, I like the idea of covering each of their perspectives separately if it's done well, wherein each movie would cover, their personal scenes, their personal family life, the scenes that include them alone, separate from the band, but also include scenes that are them with the band, right? And then each of the 4 movies, like what I guess what you would do, I don't know if he's going to do it this way, but you would film the scenes that include the entire band all at once from different, you would have multiple camera angles and multiple takes so that you include a few of those scenes in all 4 of the movies, and you present them from the unique perspective each time. But then you surround the movie with a majority of content that is independent to each individual Beatle, right? That's why I'd like a 5th movie, because the 5th movie would would
The
bring everything
unifying,
together.
yeah, the unification.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's why I'm kind of weird out that they didn't say anything here
Or they could do
about.
like Clue. Each movie has a different ending.
Yeah.
In,
Ah.
in one of them, John Lennon lives and drives a truck.
Oh, that's good.
Man, but I agree about Mendez. I don't like American Beauty. I think that was incredibly overrated with me. And he's this Bond movies are crap. So I would not have any faith in this either.
I'm going to say something that may upset some people. I think that Sam Mendes is sort of the J.J. Abrams of drama. You know what I mean?
Wow.
That's
Mm.
good.
I mean, Nick, unless you want to go before me, I
mean, I'd like to know who's involved in these. Sorry, besides not just obviously Sam Mendes, but as far as who they cast, because I give these a shot. Now I wouldn't say I qualify as a mega fan. As far as the songs I like, I lean a little bit more towards the weirder stuff. What's that album called? Sgt. Pepper, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. I was never really into the songs about holding hands. That stuff kind of seemed weird, way too like Backstreet Boys to me. But when they got really weird, I thought, oh hey, that's kind of cool. Like, dude, it's really cool. So, anyways, yeah. I hope that we get movies that are as close to being authentic with their character arcs. I just hope it's not just pieces that butter them up for 2 to 2.5 hours. Like, give me the highs and lows of their journeys. I mean, preferentially, I would prefer one, a whole 3 to 4 movie flick on the band as a whole. But if we could do as I think it came out CC or Price, I said if we did know all of them having their individual movie and leading up to the unifying movie, I think it's a great idea too. So yeah, I mean, the right person I was involved in this, I'll definitely give it a look. That's all I got.
I mean, I don't want it to be bad. I'll watch it and I'll hope that
Oh,
it's good. It's
absolutely.
just, I hope that this is the one time that Sam Mendes doesn't disappoint me, because I think that in his whole career, nothing he's done is actually really good, in my opinion, except for maybe American Beauty, which, to be fair, I think that you may not like Kevin or whatever. I don't know. That's a whole different story. But I think that some of that movie really works because of his performance. And I would argue that without that performance, I don't know if this movie would hold up in the same way American Beauty.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't have as much of an issue as you do with the director, but I'm just more curious if he's the right guy for this. I just don't. I mean, there's maybe a half a dozen other directors I might think of first who probably do something like this more justice, not least of which would be somebody like either Peter Jackson or Martin Scorsese or somebody
Yes.
like that. Like, I'm like, wait a minute here. If you're doing this requires look, and I get it. There's probably a dozen people. I haven't watched the chat here for a minute, but I just brought it back up here now. I'm sure a lot of people think the Beatles are overrated. I'm not going to get into that debate, but you cannot debate the impact and what they do mean for musical history.
Oh, their
And
influence is undeniable.
they need somebody like that to be able to make the gravitas of what your story. And I like this idea. I actually like this idea because I said it in the chat earlier tonight. I'm like, I always thought if you're going to do a Beatles docudrama, you're going to have to do it as a trilogy. Otherwise, you can only key in on one point in time because, great example, we've had, God, half a dozen Beatle movies. And guess what? Most of them are about John Lennon. And then the rest are like Backbeat and stuff like that, which are very early on in their career and stuff like that. And a lot of that is because it has notoriously been difficult for the Beatles or for people to make Beatles documentaries because they're just not going to work with, or docudramas because they're not going to work with them. They don't get the music and all that kind of crap. So it's a big, to do about that kind of stuff. But here you have the obvious licensed docudrama, which, I'm not surprised. It's about time. We've had the Queen one. We've had the Elton John one. We got the Michael Jackson one coming out. This is right when Bob Marley's movie's #1 at the box office. It makes sense to announce this now. Like I said, I like this idea, but I'm just not so sure if Sam Mendes is the guy to do this. Hey, he's got some pedigree, but I got to see something first, maybe. I mean, visually with stuff that he's done, I can see it. Maybe he is the guy to do it. I just think it would be better under somebody like Peter Jackson. I don't know.
I agree. Peter Jackson, I would vote for that guy any day of the year over Sam Mendes, who I don't rate at all.
All right.
Yep.
I think I probably upset some people in the chat. I don't know if people like him, but I have to be honest. I can't lie to people.
I mean, I'm glad people like the Beatles as much as they do. I think that's good. For like I said, for me, they're just kind of like they're fine for me, but I'm glad people have that passion. My younger brother, he's a big fan. One of my best buddies who when it comes to heavy music, one of the best guys I know when it comes to it, one of his favorite bands still is the Beatles. I do, appreciate their conviction on that. And even though I may not share that same mentality, I'm happy that they, can stand on their own 2 feet with their convictions on how much they love that band. That's the beauty of that stuff.
I will say this, though, that sometimes it's like when you watch an old movie and you kind of put it in the context of the time that it was released. There's movies that I'll show you from the 30s and 40s, and they'll look ridiculous to us or outdated or things like that. Not that I think that of the Beatles, but that things look older, but you can still appreciate something that they've done there because of how they influenced cinema. And I think that Beatles redefined what could happen in this industry. And I think that you're looking at it, you're saying, oh, the early days are like a pop band. In those days, in order for a song to be on the radio, they had to say that they were holding some lady's hand. But a lot of times they'd have all these kind of double entendres, which was their way of kind of slipping more naughty talk. Like, please, please me had a different type of meaning. There were a lot of things that they were kind of under the radar of the censors were getting through. So I think that they're not the Backstreet Boys, if that's what you think of them. And considering the time and what they did, they were really the first to sort of do that. But what I'll tell you is this, and then I'll leave it alone. I'd say that the Beatles were sort of like the prototype of whatever a band could be, and it's split then into 2 movements, pop and rock. A lot of rock bands that you may listen to, they'll probably tell you how much they love John Lennon and how important he was to what an influence he was. And a lot of these kind of more poppy stuff throughout history will say that they like Paul McCartney. Because I feel like pop was more, Paul's department, and John was always going more rock. So they're sort of the fathers of a lot of different things. And as a pop culture phenomena, I think that even as that, the Beatles are fascinating. But I can understand, well, if you're comparing it to certain metal bands you're listening to now, why you may not like them. But I think they're very important.
It's true,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
I mean,
their
if you
influence is
like
irrefutable.
whether or not you like Ed Sheeran, he compliments Paul McCartney and Elton John. And then you have everything that happened in the rock side after that, Black Sabbath, and just the age of rock, kind of that in the early 70s that came out of the other side of that. So
Right. A lot of the stuff that I consider, I mean, specifically Elton John is a good musician, but I mean, a lot of the stuff that I consider, I don't want to speak ill, but not my cup of tea, came from that Paul McCartney department. You mentioned Ed Sheeran. He looks like a guy who would say that he listened to Elton John and Paul McCartney. But I like the guys that like John Lennon, the Led Zeppelin type of people that liked him, and a lot of other bands. Anything that came after the 60s usually would say, well, we listened to John Lennon and we want it to be him.
Yes. No, I can tell.
It's a huge influence. Yeah.
Oh, of course, of course. Yeah. No, I can tell people are very, very showing off their passion for the Beatles. That's great that people feel though. I'm happy that you do. That's fantastic.
No, you're entitled to feel any way you want. I was just kind of making a point about that. You said, oh, they're like a boy band. None of these, nothing.
I said for some of their songs. Let's be specific here. I'm talking about the stuff like when they were talking about songs like about holding your hand. Now, I did say that the stuff on like Sgt. Pepper, like I said, tell me if that's the correct title, where it's a bit more weirder and crazy. I did like some of that stuff.
It happened gradually. It happened gradually. If you listen to maybe Rubber Soul, I think that's where they started shifting. Rubber Soul, Revolver, Sergeant Pepper,
Revolver,
Abbey Road.
the sweet
those,
spot.
those are albums where they basically said, we don't care anymore what the record company wants. We're just going to do whatever we want, and we're popular, and we're going to do it the way we want it. And I think that, yeah, the merit and the quality of the movie, certainly the music goes up during that time period. I agree with you. But given the circumstances they were in to try to put themselves on the map before, they were really in uncharted territory. And I can still find something cool even about those songs that are more kind of schmaltzy or however you see them. But I can understand what your perspective. I'm not knocking it. But I will say
I thought that was just a misunderstanding. That's all.
No. I'm not knocking what you're saying. I understand. I acknowledge that their earlier lyrics. I think even they would acknowledge that their earlier lyrics are more kind of,
but they were still catchy tunes, though.
Catchy tunes for sure. I like everything.
The Stones started as a cover band.
Yeah, I love the old stuff they did
as well, right? And I enjoy those albums, but they had to make their own way before they ever got to their 70s output.
Yeah.
The Stones are very
Bob
lucky.
Dylan too, really. Blood on the Tracks is not what he was doing in the 60s.
The Stones are very lucky that so many people came and went and passed away, and they're sort of still here. Their catalog is nowhere near as good as the Beatles catalog, although I respect them as a band that's been touring for 75 years or whatever they do. But to me, they've never been on the level of the Beatles, and they're still not on the level. Like, you take 50 Stones album and I can create one decent compilation CD for you.
But there was a significant evolution in general, I guess is what I'm saying, at that time, that led from the 60s into the 70s.
They're lucky that the Beatles paved the way for them, but it's okay. I mean, I don't dislike them. Keith Richards. Keith Richards seems like a cool guy, you know.
You've made your side clear.
I like them more than I like Ed Sheeran. I like the Stones more than I like Ed Sheeran. That's for sure.
Okay, fair enough. I don't know. We can get into that too. Ed Sheeran's deceptively complicated. You ever try singing one of his songs?
You know, I don't think that
really
he has
hard.
zero talent, but there's something about him that seems too like when you're at a car rental place and the guy is trying to sell you, like, make you rent the more expensive car.
Yeah,
that's Ed Sheeran. I don't know why that popped into my mind, but there's something about him that I don't trust.
Yeah, I don't know anything about Ed Sheeran other than that, but no, I mean this.
Oh, sorry, Tom.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna just say, at the rate we're gonna need the Midnight's Edge music show. Like, the rate we're going, seriously.
Well, this is where I said we should have segued earlier.
Turns into like a 10 to 20 minute, like, every time music gets brought.
Well, to get back on this, Jason Webster, well, this is music related, but Jason Webster asked, which actors would you like to see play John, Paul, George, and Ringo? And you know what? I don't know too many young actors now to really sit here and cast this. I think I'd actually want to see some slightly unknowns, so I can kind of just see them as the Beatles. Like, I was kind of resistant to Rami Malek and Taron Egerton, for instance, playing their respected others in the movies. Although I'd say Rami did a better job, but Taron was in the better movie. So go figure. It's like, or at least the more accurate film, I would say. But Taron I didn't buy as much as Elton John, as opposed to Rami, who won me over as Freddie Mercury. This case, again, the best ones for me are like La Bamba and stuff like that. Back then, I didn't know who Lou Diamond Phillips was. He was Richie Valens to me, and then he was Chavez, and then he was Lou Diamond Phillips after a while. I'd prefer it that way. Same thing with like Gary Busey was Buddy Holly when I was a kid. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it was just like, until he started playing the bad guys all the time, he was Buddy Holly. That's what I saw on my TV all the time. So, like, again, I would prefer they find some unknowns. I hope they don't cast like a bunch of Timothy Chalamet types in these roles too. That would be another thing I wouldn't like to see. No, I'm hoping they find somebody. Anybody got any ideas otherwise, though?
I'm with you that I would like to see unknowns. Because if I see too big of a names, all I'm gonna see is the actor first before I see who they're trying to portray, and especially if they're trying to really sell me, someone who's, I guess you could say, moderate on the Beatles. You want to win me over to them. I would say definitely give me lesser known names so I could see them as John Lennon first, or Paul McCartney first, or Ringo Starr first. I want to see the character first before I see the star. So yeah, I think unknown would definitely be the best possible outcome. I think they would have to go pretty obscure, like names I've not heard, because even if I try to think of names, even the most lesser known names I'm thinking right now, they're like, oh, I'm still gonna see so and so first. So yeah, they're gonna have to go pretty obscure.
I think this would have been better as a mini series for some kind of streaming service with a quality director, even like a Peter Jackson. Uh, I think that going to 4 different theaters to watch the different movies, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to work or not, and definitely not with Sam Mendes.
I kind of agree with you. I love the
I mean,
concept.
maybe it
I
should have
hope
been
it
a streaming
succeeds,
series, maybe. Yeah.
but it feels like it really feels like it needs that fifth part to me. I don't think that it absolutely necessarily needs it, but that if you have just 4 movies, you have these 4 separate endings, which I guess is fine because it leaves it up to the imagination. So you don't necessarily need the fifth, but a fifth would just kind of like if they had that one to kind of actually tell the end story. And that
Yeah,
would be
kind
a,
of
that
all
would be
4 of the
yeah.
guys. Yeah.
And that's what you would do with streaming. And it seems like if like he probably had to pull some kind of strings to get 4 movies into theaters. You know,
I have a feeling, and I don't have any way to prove it. I have a feeling that what happened is that each one of these characters, they wanted to devote a lot of time to them. And when you're doing a biopic, it's really hard to cover decades of somebody's
Yeah.
life. And there's 4 people in this band, so that's when
Yeah.
they started thinking of how do we, how do we do it? We do 4, but really the solution would have been 6, 8, maybe an 8-part miniseries where each episode is an hour, and in each episode you can give a little bit of room to all these other characters, which I don't necessarily feel like I need a George alone and a Ringo alone. As much as I like those guys, I kind of just want to see how they were all the Beatles. Yes, it's nice to give some exposition in those early episodes. You can show how they got together. You can show some backstory, but I don't. This whole concept doesn't work for me, and the person in charge of it is also poorly suited to run it. But I could be
Yeah.
wrong. I mean, again, with all of that being said, I really like the Beatles, and I'm going to go in hoping that it's good if this ever gets made and doesn't get tossed away by somebody. But if it actually gets made, I'll want to see it.
Yeah, because I'm trying to figure out how you're going to do this and how they're going to cross over, other than just having the same actors involved and just from different points of view. Like nobody's going to want to see the same story 4 different times from 4 different points of view, right?
Right.
If you're going to do that, you just do it in one movie in a one setting kind of situation, because that's just going to get tedious for the audience. And that's where I was saying a trilogy makes the most sense. Why? Because as a Beatles fan, we all know there's 3 eras to the Beatles music, right? That's obvious.
Well,
There's the early years, the transitional period, and then the later years, right? So that's makes sense to how you make the movies, right? You start off with the beginning. Go ahead.
no, I was gonna say if you have it like a 90 or 100-minute movie, don't make them 2.5 hours each, please. If they're like 100 minutes and maybe 10 or 15 minutes are shared scenes that kind of tie everything together so that you see a slightly different perspective of those scenes that aren't going
Right.
to overwhelm your time in each of the 4, I think that works, right? I wouldn't say make the majority of the movie of that. Make it about each individual character and how they interact with their own story, but have a few scenes that tie it together for the viewer to kind of be able to appreciate the differences in how the events transpire with those connecting points. But do it on a smaller scale, right? Like make it maybe 10 or 15 minutes out of the 100. And then it wouldn't become boring at that point.
And there's
right?
one additional issue, which I'm sure is not listed in the article. I'll say it and then I'll leave it alone. Is that all of these guys have estates. They're, Ringo and Paul are still alive, but the others have estates. And once you're dealing with family members and how each one is portrayed and what you're allowed to show, this is going to be some kind of sanitized thing. The Beatles, there were times in their youth that they were wild, and I have a feeling that we're not going to get that full picture of what they really were.
Yeah.
It's going to be some kind of sanitized thing. And if you're going to sanitize it, you may as well have gone for a Queen type of movie where it's all fluffy nonsense, but at least you hear some good tunes. Maybe have if you're in one of those theaters where they serve alcohol, you drink some whiskey, you hear some tunes, some people pretending to be the Beatles, and you leave. That probably would have been a better solution.
This is why I like the kind of fictitious approach. Like I love Almost Famous. You're not gonna. These movies are not gonna give you scenes from, say, Almost Famous where they're yelling at each other in the airplane, right? You're not gonna get that kind of reality. It is gonna be fluff. So I mean, I totally follow what you're saying there about either taking a fictitious approach or getting a smaller band, that has an interesting story and trying to sort of sell the age and people who can kind of appreciate the era. But you're not going to be limited on how truthful you can be. There will totally be limits on the Beatles, right?
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
You there, Tom?
Maybe he
Let me
You want
say
to go?
Sadie's
Double again
probably
next.
at the door or something
I-
like that.
I'm sorry.
Sadie,
Sorry.
it's
That's probably why I was able to ramble so much.
Yeah, that's
Otherwise,
all right. It's all right.
Tom would have probably stopped me, but he wasn't here, so I just continued to
You guys
ramble,
are
I
fine.
guess.
We got Infinite Wanderer sends in 20 smackaroos. Thank you so much. Says if Borderlands
Hey.
is done well, it'll be aliens set in Mad Max. That's kind of what it looks like. A lot of gun porn and every 80s high octane stereotype you can squeeze into a sci-fi action thriller.
Ooh.
If they get the guns wrong, then it's not Borderlands. Well, there you go. It sounds like you know what you're talking about here, Infinite Wanderer. And yeah, I mean, I can check it out. But my whole assessment of it would be just basically from a complete, this is a movie or a show kind of thing now. Like I never played a game.
We shouldn't sleep on it. I mean, if it's a really
Yeah.
great movie, like if it doesn't get to $1 billion at the box office, it'll make it in merch sales, right? It has that potential.
By the way, you guys know that Mad Max, the budget is $230 million, apparently, for that Furiosa thing. I think that's the
What, to film it in
really-
front of a green screen this time?
Oh God.
Come on.
I mean, that's a huge risk. $230 million on that
Oh,
Furiosa
what
movie.
is
I
it?
If
I
you're
think
going to
that's
spend that
too
much money, at least build the cars
Yeah.
and go
Nobody's gonna
film
watch
them
that.
tearing shit up somewhere. Come on.
Bomb.
Yeah, I mean, wasn't Road Warrior made for like $10 million? What do they need $230 million for?
Get a bunch of cool cars, put them on a highway, and film them. If you got $230 million,
Yeah.
you better dress them up.
And the second you put Chris Hemsworth, I like Chris Hemsworth, but somehow he's become sort of, once you throw him into some kind of remake sequel thingy, it's
Mhm.
usually like
He's in
not a
that?
good sign.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it's Anya Taylor-Joy and Chris Hemsworth. I'm getting Men in Black International vibes. Or,
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Anytime, I'm not
Oh,
saying that
boy.
that's what he's going to do in the movie, but I just feel like anytime I see him in some kind of remake, it usually ends up underperforming. It's not, I like certain things that he does. I like Extraction. I liked him as Thor, but I would prefer that he just do more action movies rather than playing a
I
second.
like him in Extraction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be the same thing with Borderlands, though. Like, get the costume design, make actual physical guns. Get the set pieces.
Wow.
Just make it wild and just extreme. Don't hold back.
Yeah, somebody in the chat said that Chris Hemsworth was in Ghostbusters 2016. It's true. Anytime you have something and he's there,
Oh yeah.
it's like a bad omen for the production.
Mhm.
And really, all he needs
Lord.
to do is more Extraction type movies. You need to give this guy a
Yeah,
machine
do action
gun.
movie. He's an action guy. He can be
He's
great.
in action. That's all. You don't need anything else. And the thing is, he can do the physical stuff, and he has a cool kind of charm about him. You give him
Yeah.
some machine gun. Let him Arnold Schwarzenegger type of movies. Just give him
Oh,
some
yeah.
machine guns. Let him go in the jungle, fire at a bunch of people, aliens, whatever you want. Just go action. He has to go and he has to blow things up, and from time to time have a one-liner. I totally think he could pull it off.
I'm so glad you threw in the one-liner part because I feel like to me, like there's like a I'm gonna sound like the action movie version of DEI, but there is a checklist to being a proper action here. There's having the muscles, the cool name, the constantly beating guys up, and take out the bad guys, whether it's with your hands or with weapons. But you also gotta have the occasional one-liner and extra points if it's something super on the nose. Because that's when it really completes it sticks the landing. Kind of like the whole Remember when I said I'd kill you first? I lied. So no,
Yeah.
because Extraction, he you see he's got the chops, he's got the look. You see him, kicking ass, taking names. They're very simple, straightforward stories. You don't need to think too hard about it. You just kind of roll with the fun of it. But he didn't have any one-liners in it. And I was just like, man, I could see Hemsworth totally, if he was totally said, hey, we need you to run loose with the dialogue. I feel like he could really nail the one-liners if he was given that to work with. I think they got to really make that thing, because seriously, he's got the chops. Like between him and Alan Richardson, like those are guys who should be basically Stallone and Schwarzenegger right now. Those guys should
Right.
be, and even Cavill, you could say he'd be another one.
The fantasy Cavill would be like the fantasy version of the action guy, and they could just be Stallone and Schwarzenegger. The problem is they were all born in the wrong era. If they were born in the 80s or 90s, they'd be the stars that you talk about. You'll see them on red
probably
carpets.
the Expendables.
Well, yeah, with all these like supermodels and stuff and Victoria's Secret and whatever. But today, none of that stuff is allowed. I don't even know if I think that Victoria's Secret doesn't even exist anymore. Or if it does, it's for plus size women or something. And you can't have any movie stars that are men, and you can't have them looking too manly and stuff. Yeah, it's weird. What weird times we live in.
Mm-hmm. Facts. And then there's Tom somewhere.
Infinite Wanderer also sent in another 10, says Borderlands is a huge influence on my gaming life. I could lore dump you for hours. Suffice to say, Borderlands 2's villain is as good as Heath Ledger's Joker. Handsome Jack is that good a villain.
And hopefully they don't screw it up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. Handsome Jack. Shall we get to the next super chat? I guess I'll do it. Tom must really be occupied. I can't highlight it, but it says Jason Webster for I think Australian $5.
Yep. We got
we did that one. That memorable virus for $2. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Memorable virus for $2. Ed Sheeran is an unfrosted Pop-Tart.
Wow, that's pretty boring.
Yeah. They didn't Kellogg's actually tried making that a thing.
I've seen those. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I don't know if they're
who
still
bought
around.
that?
I know they tried. I actually
Yeah,
they tried
just
getting that
have
off the ground.
Who bought
That's
those?
a weird idea. That's like that's like that creep at McDonald's who asked for the fries without salt. Like you know that guy's not your friend.
Guy's
He's probably
weird.
a fed. You stay
Probably an
away
alien.
from him. It's just
Sure.
no, you don't do
Unfrosted
Pop-Tart without the frost. What kind of crud is that?
I think it stops being a Pop-Tart, doesn't it?
I see D-Bud's comment, and he's right. They originally
That's
weren't
true.
frosted,
They used
but
to have them,
but
the world was a
went
darker
certain
place.
way. Yeah, this brightened the world up. It's when they had that frosting on top. If anything, they said, how do we improve upon this?
Yes.
Oh,
I discontinued my favorites.
I think only one of them is currently still unfrosted that isn't like a plain strawberry, and that's the chocolate chip one. I think that's the only one because the inside is so like super duper chocolatey. I think that's it. Those would be the only two.
Yes, sir.
We better not go into a tangent on food, otherwise we'll be here for 20 minutes.
Chocolate Pop-Tarts.
Yeah,
chocolate. I like this white chocolate Pop-Tarts. They don't make them anymore.
Oh, dude, I like the green apple. I was a big fan of green apple and cinnamon. Man, I remember when cinnamon was brand new, dude. I straight up probably ate an entire box a day. It was awesome.
Nice,
so good. For real. I love the citizen. I remember I would seriously, I was like, oh, and we got Beep Bop Boop for I'm sorry I suck with currency, folks, but it says for something $1.99. Arnold is the GOAT of action. Change my mind, us.
That's a couple of hard pounds.
I don't know
about
hard pounds.
I don't know. That's a good debate. I mean, that sounds like more
action.
He's definitely up there. I'll put it that way.
Of the
He's
80s
definitely one
era,
of the best.
probably.
Yeah.
If not the 90s, definitely.
That's some of the
Definitely
biggest
one
action
of the
movies.
best, but the biggest of all.
Right.
God, I don't know. I
I
mean,
mean,
Clint
he
Eastwood's
probably
probably the most consistent.
had the most known ones. If we're gonna be fair here, judging by the movies that had the higher grosses. I mean, obviously, Terminator 2 was one of the biggest ones. I'm trying to think here. Obviously,
Terminator was
Total
big.
Recall, True Lies were huge as well. I mean, those
Yes.
movies were undeniably huge. So I guess if we're talking about that now, as far as the personal preference of the quality, I mean, ooh, see, I'm now that's where I come in because I love the Arnold movies. I do, especially the old school ones. But for me, man, like there's so many great ones. I feel like a lot of great movies got overlooked, but that's because they were at a time where so many movies were good that a lot of movies were just bound to be kind of slipping through the get stuck in the cracks. They didn't slip through, they got stuck in the cracks. But I mean, even some Arnold movies did. I mean, a lot of people don't even talk about Red Heat. That's why in the early days of
You like
Toxic
that one?
Tuesday, we did a show on Red Heat. Oh, I love Red
It was
Heat.
just
We did.
Walter Hill repeating himself after 48 hours, I thought.
You're right. No, you're right. But
Okay,
and it's also,
but-
Arnold's not a Russian cop. He's just Arnold who has to pretend that he's Russian.
That's all right.
But there's so many great. Bevo Burn just mentioned Delta Force. You look at the Chuck Norris ones. I feel like Invasion USA is one of the best action movies ever. But it has a little story. But who cares? It's Chuck Norris, an action movie.
Meryl Streep, right? Oh no, Chuck Norris.
Dude, Chuck Norris. Seriously. Then of course you got Charles Bronson. I mean, Death Wish 3. I mean, that whole last 40 minutes is a giant long action scene in the Bronx. It's one of the wildest scenes you'll have ever seen in movie history. Like, holy crap, it just keeps going and going and going. And then you got some of the more deeper, like more philosophical, socio-political stuff, like obviously the first Death Wish, but also the Dirty Harry movies. Those were fantastic because they had great challenging topics, but then they had the great action to back that as well. That's a little topic. Maybe for when there's a Sunday Night Shitless, a substitute episode 2, we could do our top action heroes. I mean, we're already gonna do top toxic movies, so maybe that could be for the second substitute episode. The top action heroes. That could be a fun one. We could really have a lot of fun with that one.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I don't know if I can change your mind, Beat Bop Boop, but I mean, I think Sly is another contender.
Dude, Cobra.
You know, I mean, Rocky and Rambo alone. Like I said, Clint for consistency for how long he's been doing it.
Bruce
is another good one. Yeah.
Last Boy Scout.
I mean, pretty much all the Expendables for the most part, except for some of the young.
2 Bruces, really.
Yeah. Bruce Lee and
Lee.
Willis. Yeah. You got Jet Li and Jackie Chan for that matter too.
Mel.
Jackie Chan's another one for consistency. Yeah, Mel.
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Oh,
yeah.
Damage.
And then, of course, the infamous showdown, Little
Godzilla.
Tokyo.
Godzilla. He is true. Very, very, very true. That's a good one. Yeah.
It's just, I mean, I'll put it this way. If you've not watched Showdown Little Tokyo, you gotta consider your credentials as far as being a fan of action movies. Right. That movie is so ridiculous.
And don't forget Dudley Moore.
Ooh, dude.
Total badass.
Yeah, dude, man. I'm glad you chose through the deep vine.
Did you say Dudley Moore?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to be silly.
Yeah, no.
I like Dudley
Just being
Moore.
silly. I love him.
Am I the only one on the panel here who's ever seen Best Defense?
No.
I've not seen Best Defense.
I know Eddie Murphy hated it. He whined about it big time in his concert, though. Yeah.
Yeah.
He hated it.
It's actually kind of funny.
I've never seen it. Is it any good?
It's not as bad as most people make it out to be.
Eddie Murphy said.
What does Eddie Murphy do in it?
Okay, it's weird because he's like a special guest star in the movie. He's in like 3 or 4 segments of the film, And what it is his part is like supposed to take place in like the modern day or in the future or whatever. And because to understand what's going on, you kind of have to know the story. And what it's about is this tank that's being designed, and it's supposed to be like this super tank. And so you bounce back and forth between Eddie Murphy, who's the military guy who's being forced to use the tank, which don't work right and is crazy. And then the whole story about how this stupid thing got made to begin with and the idiots behind the scenes. So it's kind of like this weird comedy, but it is kind of funny in a weird way. It's just kind of a oddball film. It's just got some out of place porn type segments. No, I'm just kidding. Like there's a lot of nudity in it and shit. And then one of the best lines in the movie is where Dudley Moore thinks he's going to die, and he goes, "I never got to teach my son how to be a man, like how to shave, or that fat women come a lot." Shit like that. It's a very crude film. Like that's the other thing too. It's a very, very crude humor.
Remember, he said that was a movie that sucked its own dick. That's what he said of it.
Yeah, he did. He just kind of did it, I think, for a paycheck, and
yeah, he did. He hated it.
Yeah, I don't even understand why his part was in it, other than they were just trying to cash.
And I love Dudley Moore, but he could make some crappy movies sometimes.
Oh yes, Dudley has some duds.
Peter Cook and Dudley Moore were a fantastic comedy team. No, I love them.
Yeah. That being said, with that,
yes.
And with that.
What are you talking about tonight, Nick?
Flash. Oh, I'm excited to talk about Flash Gordon tonight. It's going to be a very fun show in under 40 minutes. So if you somehow have watched Midnight's Edge After Dark as much as you have on Tuesday nights and you somehow still haven't watched Toxic Tuesday, tonight is a good time to correct that by joining us to talk Flash Gordon. We'll have a panelist or two from this show on there as well. That's all I got.
There you
Thanks
go.
for having me, though. Thanks for having me.
And we also have Klobby. What you got going on?
Well, nothing tonight. It's Tuesday, but of course tomorrow night, I went Wild Card Wednesday night, and then the Clubhouse on Thursday night, and Saturday night Star Trek usually on Saturday nights. So always on Saturday, really. So just that stuff going on in the usual places. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. And everyone out in the chat, you guys have a great rest of your evening.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome sauce. CC, Loki Oki.
The usual gig is Loki's Late Night at 8 p.m. Pacific on Fridays, and then karaoke at 10 p.m. Now, I got to visit family this weekend, so I have no idea if that's going to conflict yet. But on Thursday, I will know for sure whether or not there is going to be karaoke this weekend. But typically, Friday nights, there is Friday night karaoke.
Indeed, and I'm usually there. Somebody else who is Price of Reason. What you got going on?
Well, I've recently uploaded a few videos. There was my Madam Web review and then some other kind of updates with the failure of the production. And if people like that kind of stuff, maybe they'll enjoy them. I even made Nick watch one of those videos.
It was an outstanding video. I had to interject, Price, but your video was actually one of the better videos I've seen on the movie, considering how much it's been covered in our sphere. It was freaking great, dude. I was like, damn, this guy, he knows how to talk a movie. Just saying, chat. I watched all 13 minutes of it. We had a great conversation. This is my straight up endorsement. Go watch that video before Toxic Tuesday.
And I will mail out your check today, Nick.
Yeah. I knew schooling would pay off eventually.
So there's that, and then I'm doing some experimental late night stuff. I don't really know what to say about that. And then on Thursday, I'll be doing the Quantum Leap thing on my live channel, and then karaoke if CC does it. I guess I'll be there. But pleasure being here as usual. Thanks, everybody. Hit the like button. And yeah, that's it.
Awesome sauce. And yeah, like I said, I'll try to hop into your stream, Nick. We'll see what happens here. I got some things I got to deal with, but yes, and we got one more super chat. Speaking of things to deal with.
Ooh, huge.
Infinite Wander, holy crap, Oli, he's been the sponsor of this episode. Thank you so much. It's been a while since I've seen you around. That or you've been just quiet, and I haven't noticed you in the chat. But good to see you back, my friend. Sends another $20 on the Borderlands stuff and says, I looked at the Borderlands movie on Wikipedia, IMDb years ago. Read like a generic sci-fi whatever that only got green light when it was when it got a franchise. If you look at the crew, you'd probably see a lot of red flags. Okay, well, let's look up the new one here. I noticed, I was trying to remember the name that I thought I heard was attached to it.
If he's saying that, I don't think he'd joke around about that, especially if he's sending you $20.
Oh, no, I believe him. I'm just trying to remember the name.
Man.
No, I mean, I am a fan of Kate Blanchett, but
no, Price is back. He must have blocked out.
Yeah, sorry, there was a technical glitch.
Okay. Trying to find
Eli
the
Roth
IMDb
directing.
page.
At this point, I'm kind of just expecting it to not be good.
I can't even find it here.
I don't. I mean, Eli Roth doesn't really give me the most.
It has Kate Blanchett in it, right?
But I like Kate Blanchett.
I do like it, but I looked at the poster and just I don't know anything. I'm not into the game. I don't know.
They got Eli Roth, that's who I was trying to think of. Yeah, and Eli Roth. I mean, some people don't like him, some people do. He's one of the writers as well.
I don't even remember who he is.
Like you said,
Jack Black.
Jack Black's in it. Kevin Hart's in it.
Yeah.
Gina Gershon, Jamie Lee Curtis. I remember seeing in the teaser.
It seems like it's trying too hard.
You don't remember who Eli Roth is?
Remind me. Where is he?
He has been an actor director. He made Thanksgiving most recently. He did Hostel. He was in Inglourious Bastards.
Oh, I think I
directed the remake of Death Wish.
Yeah. Now I know what you mean. I actually didn't mind that remake of Death Wish, even though nobody liked it.
It was not horrible. It was serviceable enough. I
mean, the whole movie itself, the original one, it's not exactly like you're looking at some sophisticated philosophical movie to begin with.
But the remake is okay. It just has some issues. But yeah,
it's sanitized a bit. They tried to make it a little more safe and not as badass, but it was Bruce
actually
Willis.
It's like two different ways, because actually Bruce Willis does shit in that movie that like in the original, Charles Bronson just shoots everybody. In the Bruce Willis one, you literally got him doing like Mike Myers type shit to everybody.
Yeah,
which I didn't mind. I mean, he was annoyed, and they annoyed him.
It was a little more its own thing, and I think it took it back to the book one step with him being a doctor again too. Because I remember right, I think he's a doctor in the original.
Yeah, he's a doctor, and when his wife and daughter are attacked or something, maybe the wife is killed or something. I don't know what, and then he gets annoyed.
Yeah,
and then he starts doing what you
that
said.
Part of the story is still the same. Yeah,
listen, it's a very simple story, and I like Bruce Willis. Yeah. I remember people were like, "Oh, it's going to be terrible," and I went to the movie theater and I saw it, and I said, "You know what? This is what popcorn movies are. It's not one that I'll watch 70 times, but I sat there with some popcorn, watched it, and I thought that I like Bruce Willis. I like that he's kicking people's ass and stuff and doing Mike Myers stuff, and it was pretty good.
It's somewhere on the remake lineage somewhere around the Rock remake of Walking Tall. It's like no, it's not the original, but it's not like horrible, and they do enough of their own thing that you don't really have to compare it with the original. And at this point, most of the people involved are long gone, so whatever.
Yeah, you weren't going to get another one with the original. It's not like that there was any sequels and then he came along and did that. It was just and it wasn't, I mean, for lack of a better word, it wasn't woke or anything. It was just him doing his thing.
Here's the issue, though. They didn't have a moment, even though it was a third movie, they killed the giggler, man. They killed the giggler.
Well, we all know 3 and 4 where those movies are really at, but yeah.
The 10-second Borderlands preview trailers almost getting ratioed.
Oh, ratioed
it's how? Very, very 4.7 up to 3.5 down.
Very mixed then, yeah.
it's just not a lot to see yet. You know,
Infinite Wander sends another 5, says I've been quiet lately because I got a new job. Well, congratulations. That keeps me busy during the streams, and I've been spending so much money because chats have text limit. Well, thank you for supporting us, and I'm glad to hear you got a new job, and hopefully you're enjoying it. And yeah, well, fingers crossed on Borderlands for you, my friend, because it sounds like you're a fan, and I hope for the fans, if I hear from you guys especially that it's good, then I will definitely check it out, but I might check it out just the same. So it looked all right. But
Alabama Wyatt asked in the chat, what time is it? A Toxic Tuesday? It's in a half hour exactly, sir. Exactly a half hour.
Yep. And I think the mods are sharing the link in the chat. So thank you to all the mods, D-Bud and D-Bud 2.
No, D-Bud. Well, that is so serious. I think I saw Mecha J. There's Mecha J around.
Yeah, Mecha J's here.
Yeah, Goddess of Women's here at the beginning of the show.
Yep.
But yeah, that's definitely our primary wrenches right now.
Thank you all for helping, and we appreciate that. And with that, we're gonna finally get on out of here. We're good to go. See you guys later. Take care. See you, Jay.
Good night, everybody.
I feel like I've been taken higher.
Excuse me, ma'am. No porn at the bar.
Oh, it's okay. I'm transgender.
Oh, I had no idea. Do whatever you want all the time.
I got molested.